I am standing in the doorway of what used to be our bedroom, watching my wife Sarah hold a newborn baby girl in her arms. Tears stream down her face as she looks up at me with desperate eyes. The baby is not ours. It never will be. 9 months ago, I warned her this decision would destroy everything we built together. She told me it was her body, her choice. She was right about that. But it was also our marriage, our future, our life together. And now, as she begs me to stay, I realize some choices cost more than we are willing to pay. Before we dive into how a single decision shattered 3 years of marriage, let me know in the comments where you are watching from. If you have ever felt unheard in your own relationship, hit that like button. And please subscribe, because this story will show you exactly why boundaries in marriage are not just important, they are essential for survival. Now let me take you back to where it all began. Sarah and I had been married for 3 years when everything fell apart. We met at a community fundraiser in Portland, where I was volunteering with my tech company, and she was organizing activities as an elementary school teacher. Our connection was instant. She had this warmth about her, the kind that made everyone around her feel seen and valued. Within a year, we were engaged. 2 years later, we bought our first house together in the suburbs. Life felt complete. I worked as a software engineer at a mid-sized firm downtown, and Sarah taught second grade at a local elementary school. Our routines were simple, but fulfilling. I would wake up early to go for a run while Sarah made coffee. We would share breakfast together, talking about our plans for the day. Evenings were spent cooking dinner side by side, discussing everything from work frustrations to dreams of converting the small spare bedroom into a nursery. That spare bedroom became a symbol of our future. We spent weekends browsing furniture stores, picking out paint colors, imagining what our child's room would look like. Soft yellow walls, we decided. Gender neutral. We had been trying to conceive for 6 months, and while nothing had happened yet, we were patient. We were young, healthy, and optimistic. Every negative pregnancy test was met with a hug and a promise to try again next month. Our weekends were filled with hiking trips in the Columbia River Gorge brunches, with friends, and quiet evenings, watching movies on our worn-out couch. Sarah would curl up beside me, her head on my shoulder, and we would talk about baby names. She liked Charlotte for a girl. I preferred Emma. We laughed about how our future child would probably hate whatever we chose. Sarah's family was close-knit sometimes, overwhelmingly so. Her parents lived 30 minutes away, and we saw them every other Sunday for dinner. Her older sister Diana was someone Sarah looked up to immensely. Diana was 35, a successful corporate attorney married to Grant, who ran his own consulting business. They lived in a beautiful home in the West Hills, drove expensive cars, and seemed to have everything figured out. Except, they did not have the one thing they wanted most: a child. Diana and Grant had been trying to conceive for 5 years. I watched as they went through one failed IVF cycle after another. 4 times they went through the grueling process. 4 times they faced devastating news. The treatments took a toll on Diana. I saw it in her eyes during family dinners, the way she would force a smile when someone asked about their plans for children. Sarah would squeeze her hand under the table, and I could see the pain they both carried. After the 4th failed attempt, Diana's doctor delivered the final blow. Her uterine lining was too damaged from previous procedures. She could produce viable eggs, but her body could not sustain a pregnancy. The word surrogate entered their conversations. At family dinners, Diana and Grant would mention it casually, talking about agencies and costs. Sarah would listen intently, asking questions. I noticed, but thought nothing of it. I was wrong to dismiss those conversations. One Saturday evening in late March, we had dinner at Diana and Grant's house. It was a beautiful spring night, and we ate on their terrace overlooking the city lights. Diana seemed quieter than usual. Grant did most of the talking, discussing a new business deal. Sarah kept glancing at her sister with concern. On the drive home, Sarah was unusually quiet. I asked if she was okay. She nodded, but did not speak for several minutes. Then, as we pulled onto our street, she said something that made my stomach drop. "What would you think about me helping Diana?" I pulled into our driveway and turned to look at her. "Helping how financially?" "We could contribute something if they need it for adoption, or another surrogate." Sarah shook her head slowly. "No. I mean, what if I carried a baby for her?" The question hung in the air between us. I waited for her to laugh to say she was just thinking out loud, but her expression was serious. She was not joking. "Sarah, we are trying to have our own baby." "I know, but we are young. We have time. Diana does not. She is running out of options." I felt a cold dread settle in my chest. "You are seriously considering this?" "I am just asking what you think." "I think it is a huge decision that would affect both of us. I think we need to focus on our own family first." She went quiet again, turning to look out the window. "She is my sister Leopold. She is suffering. I understand that. But there are other ways to help. This is not something you just do casually." We went inside and did not discuss it further that night. I hoped that would be the end of it. I was foolish to think hope alone could stop what was coming. Over the next 2 weeks, I noticed changes. Sarah spent hours on her laptop researching surrogacy. She left tabs open with articles about surrogate requirements, medical procedures, and legal contracts. She talked on the phone with Diana more frequently, often stepping into another room when I entered. When I asked what they were discussing, she would say, "Just sister stuff," and change the subject. I felt her drifting away, even though she was right beside me. At night, she would lie facing away from me, lost in thought. When I tried to initiate conversations about our own plans, she seemed distracted. The paint samples for the nursery sat untouched on the kitchen counter. One evening, I found her crying in the bathroom. When I asked what was wrong, she told me about a call with Diana. Her sister had broken down saying she felt like a failure as a woman because she could not give Grant a child. Sarah looked at me with red-rimmed eyes and said, "I can fix this for her, Leopold. I can give her what she wants most." That sentence terrified me more than anything else she could have said. 2 weeks later, Sarah brought it up again. But this time, it was not a question. It was a plan. We were having dinner at home on a Tuesday night. I had made pasta her favorite. We were eating in silence when she set down her fork and said, "I have been researching everything about surrogacy. I know what it involves, and I want to do this for Diana." I put my fork down too. "Sarah, we talked about this." "No, you dismissed it. But I have been thinking about nothing else. Diana and Grant have the embryos ready. They just need someone to carry the baby. I am healthy. I am young. I can do this. What about our plans? We are trying for our own baby. We can wait 1 year. That is all it would be. 9 months of pregnancy and a few months to recover. Then we can start trying again." I stared at her, unable to believe what I was hearing. 1 year, Sarah, pregnancy changes your body. It takes a toll physically and emotionally. And what about the attachment you will feel to that baby? I will be fine. Women do this all the time. Professional surrogates do this, with strangers. This is your sister. Do you really think you can carry her baby for 9 months and just hand it over without it affecting you? Her jaw tightened. Yes, I do, because I love her and I want her to be happy. And what about us? What about our happiness? She looked away. This is important to me. So am I, Sarah. So is our marriage. Or am I supposed to believe that does not matter? Of course you matter, but this is my body, my choice. Those words hit me like a punch to the gut. Your body, your choice. I agree with that. But we are married. Big decisions like this should involve both of us. This is not just about your body. It is about our future, our relationship, everything we have been building. I knew you would not understand. Help me understand then. Explain to me how putting our lives on hold for a year, watching you go through pregnancy with someone else's child, and risking your health for this makes sense. Because she is my sister, and she needs me. I need you too, Sarah. I need my wife to care about what I think and feel. We argued for over an hour that night. I laid out every concern I had, the physical risks, the emotional toll, the impact on our own plans, the possibility that this would change our relationship forever. She countered every point with the same answer. Diana needed her. Family came first. It was her decision to make. Finally, exhausted and frustrated, I said, "If you do this, Sarah, it will destroy us. I am begging you to reconsider." She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "If you loved me, you would support me." "I do love you. That is why I am asking you not to do this." We slept in separate rooms that night. It was the first time in our marriage we had done so out of anger, rather than necessity. The next morning, I woke up hoping we could talk calmly and find some middle ground. Instead, I found Sarah on the phone with Diana, already discussing next steps. When she saw me, she ended the call quickly. "We need to talk," I said. "There is nothing left to say, Leopold. I have made my decision." "Without me." "I wish I had your support. But I am doing this either way." That was when I realized I had lost her. Not to another man, not to some dramatic event, but to a choice she valued more than our partnership. Within days, Diana called me directly. She was crying, thanking me for being so understanding. I had not agreed to anything. I told her I was not comfortable with this. She acted shocked, as if Sarah had told her I was on board. She begged me to reconsider, explaining how much this meant to her, how it was her last chance at motherhood. Then Grant sent me a long email. He outlined how they would cover all medical expenses. They would pay for anything Sarah needed. They would make sure she had the best care. He included figures, financial breakdowns, as if money was my concern. He ended the email by saying, "We know this is a sacrifice for you both, and we will never forget it." I did not respond to either of them. I was furious that Sarah had involved them before we had reached any agreement. It felt like a coordinated effort to pressure me into compliance. Then, Sarah's parents called. Her mother was gentle at first, saying she understood this was difficult, but reminding me how close Sarah and Diana were. When I tried to explain my concerns, she cut me off. "Leopold, sometimes in a marriage, you have to put your spouse's needs first. Sarah needs to do this. If you care about her, you will let her." Her father was blunter. "You are being selfish. Diana is family. Sarah is just trying to help her sister. What kind of husband stands in the way of that?" I felt cornered, attacked from all sides. In their eyes, I was the villain for not wanting my wife to carry someone else's baby. Nobody asked how I felt. Nobody cared that our entire life plan was being derailed. I was supposed to smile and go along with it because family comes first. 1 month after our initial argument, Sarah came home with paperwork from a fertility clinic. She had already completed the preliminary screening. Her blood work was done. She had met with the doctors. Everything was moving forward, whether I participated or not. "You did all this without telling me. I told you I was doing it. You just refused to listen." Listening and agreeing are not the same thing, Sarah. She sat down across from me, her face determined. "Leopold, I love you, but I am doing this. You can either support me, or you can keep fighting me. But the outcome will be the same." I felt something inside me break. "So, my opinion means nothing. It matters, but this is my right." "And what about my rights? My right to have a say in major decisions that affect my life?" "You do have a say. You are saying no. I am saying yes. I am the one whose body is involved, so my yes wins." I looked at the woman I married and barely recognized her. "This will destroy our marriage, Sarah. I am telling you right now. If you go through with this, we will not survive it." She reached across the table and took my hand. "If you love me, you will understand why I have to do this." I pulled my hand away. "If you loved me, you would not ask me to." We stared at each other across an impossible divide. I saw no path forward where both of us got what we wanted. One of us had to lose. And she had already decided it would be me. 3 weeks later, Sarah underwent the embryo transfer. I did not go with her. Diana and Grant did. I went to work that day and sat at my desk, unable to focus. My coworkers asked if I was okay. I said I was fine. I was not fine. My wife was at a medical clinic having another couple's embryo implanted in her womb, and I was supposed to pretend everything was normal. She came home that afternoon and went straight to bed. Doctor's orders were to rest for 48 hours. Diana had driven her home and stayed to make sure she was comfortable. I came home to find Diana in our kitchen making soup. "She is resting upstairs," Diana said, smiling at me. "The procedure went perfectly. We are so grateful to you both." I did not respond. I walked past her and went to our bedroom. Sarah was lying in bed scrolling through her phone. She looked up when I entered. "How are you feeling?" I asked because despite everything I still cared. "Tired. A little cramping. But the doctor said that is normal." I nodded and sat in the chair by the window, not on the bed beside her. "Leopold, I know you are upset. But once the baby comes, you will see how worth it this was." I looked at her and felt nothing but sadness. I already know what I have lost, Sarah. A baby being born is not going to change that. She turned away from me, and we did not speak again that night. 2 weeks later, she took a pregnancy test. It was positive. Diana and Grant came over immediately. There were tears, hugs, champagne for everyone except Sarah. I watched from the kitchen doorway as they celebrated. Nobody asked how I felt. Nobody seemed to notice I was not joining in. That night, Sarah tried to bridge the gap between us. She climbed into bed beside me and said, "Thank you for letting me do this." "I did not let you do anything. You did it anyway. I know you are angry, but we can get through this. After the baby is born, things will go back to normal." I turned to look at her. "Nothing will ever be normal again, Sarah. You made a choice, and I have to live with the consequences of your choice without having any say in it. That is not a partnership. That is not a marriage." She started to cry. "I thought you would come around. I thought once you saw how happy this makes Diana, you would understand." "I understand perfectly. I understand that your sister's happiness matters more to you than mine does. That is not fair. None of this is fair, Sarah." We moved to separate bedrooms after that conversation. She took the master bedroom. I took the spare room we had planned to make into a nursery. Every night, I lay in that room surrounded by paint samples and furniture catalogs, mourning the future we would never have. The first trimester was brutal. Sarah had severe morning sickness. She could barely keep food down. Diana came over almost every day to take care of her. I would come home from work to find Diana making dinner, doing laundry, sitting with Sarah while she rested. I felt like a stranger in my own home. Grant would stop by on weekends with groceries and gifts for Sarah. Prenatal vitamins, maternity clothes, books about pregnancy. They treated her like she was doing the most noble thing in the world. Maybe she was, but it was destroying me in the process. Sarah and I barely spoke unless necessary. Our conversations were limited to household logistics. Did I pay the electric bill? What time would I be home from work? We moved around each other like roommates who happened to share a last name. At 12 weeks, they had the first ultrasound. I was not invited. Sarah went with Diana and Grant. They came back with photos, excited and emotional. I saw the images on our refrigerator the next morning. A tiny blob that would become a baby. A baby that had nothing to do with me. A baby that was driving a wedge between me and my wife that grew wider every day. By the second trimester, Sarah's pregnancy was showing. She would stand sideways in front of the mirror, running her hands over her growing belly. Sometimes, I would catch her smiling at her reflection. Other times she looked confused, as if she could not quite believe what she had done. Diana and Grant were constant presences. They attended every doctor's appointment. They went shopping for baby items. They decorated the nursery at their house. And Sarah was right there with them, more involved in their lives than in ours. I started staying late at work, not because I had extra projects, but because I could not stand being home. Our house felt like a shrine to someone else's baby. Diana had hung ultrasound pictures on our fridge. There were pregnancy tracking apps on Sarah's phone with week-by-week updates. Everyone was counting down to this birth except me. I was counting down to when I could escape. At 20 weeks, they found out the baby was a girl. I learned this from a text message Sarah sent me while I was in a meeting. "It is a girl." 3 words and an exclamation point. No acknowledgement of how strange it was to be texting me this news instead of telling me in person. No recognition that this information meant nothing to me because this child was not mine. I did not respond to the text. That weekend, Diana and Grant decided to have a small gathering to celebrate. Just family, Sarah said. But family meant her parents, Diana and Grant and me, the outsider, the one who was supposed to smile and pretend he was happy about all of this. I came home from a Saturday morning run to find our living room decorated with pink balloons and a banner that said, "It is a girl." There was a cake on the dining table. Presents were stacked on the couch. Sarah's parents were already there talking excitedly with Diana and Grant. Nobody had told me about this. I stood in the doorway of my own home, sweaty from my run, staring at a celebration I knew nothing about. Sarah noticed me and walked over. "Surprise. We wanted to do something special. You did not think to tell me." I wanted it to be a surprise. A surprise would be if this was my baby Sarah. This is just a reminder that I do not matter. I walked past her and went upstairs to shower. When I came back down, everyone was gathered around Sarah, asking her questions about the pregnancy, touching her belly, laughing. I stood at the edge of the room, invisible. Sarah's mother noticed me and called out, "Leopold, come congratulate your wife. She is doing such an incredible thing." I walked over mechanically and stood next to Sarah. Everyone was looking at me expectantly. Diana had tears in her eyes. Grant had his arm around her. "Congratulations," I said flatly. Sarah's smile faltered. She knew. She finally understood that I was past the point of pretending. The gathering continued around us, but the energy had shifted. People tried to include me in conversations, but I gave one-word answers. I ate a piece of cake because refusing would have caused a scene. I watched my wife laugh with her sister about baby names and nursery themes, and I felt absolutely nothing. After everyone left, Sarah confronted me. "You could have at least pretended to be happy." For who for them? They do not care how I feel. Neither do you. That is not true. I care. No, Sarah. You care about doing what you want. If you cared about me, we would not be in this situation. Why are you being so cruel? Cruel. You want to know what is cruel? Watching my wife celebrate a pregnancy that has nothing to do with me. Being excluded from my own home. Being treated like I am the problem because I do not want to participate in the destruction of our marriage. She started crying. I am trying so hard to make everyone happy. Everyone except me. What do you want from me, Leopold? I looked at her, this woman I had loved so completely, and realized there was nothing left to say. I want you to have chosen us. But you did not. So now I have to choose myself. She did not understand what I meant. Not yet. But she would soon enough. I contacted a divorce attorney the next day. His name was Richard, and he specialized in family law. I sat in his office and explained the situation. He listened without judgment, and then laid out my options. Oregon is a no-fault divorce state. You do not need to prove wrongdoing. But given the unusual circumstances, I want to make sure we protect you financially. Since she chose to become a surrogate without your full consent, we need to establish that any expenses related to the pregnancy are not marital debt." I had not even thought about that. But he was right. Diana and Grant were paying for medical expenses. But what if there were complications? What if insurance did not cover something I did not want to be responsible for costs related to a decision I had opposed? We drafted the paperwork. Richard suggested I wait until after the baby was born to file to avoid additional drama during the pregnancy. But I could not wait. Every day in that house felt like drowning. I needed a lifeline, and divorce papers were the only thing I could grab onto. I started looking for an apartment. I found a one-bedroom place downtown, closer to my office. It was small, but enough for me. I signed the lease and began quietly moving things out. Clothes, books, my laptop. Small items Sarah would not immediately notice were gone. I opened a separate bank account and transferred half our savings. Legally, I was entitled to it. We had kept joint finances throughout our marriage, but I was not going to let my money fund a life I was no longer part of. Sarah was too consumed with the pregnancy to notice the changes. Diana was over constantly. They spent hours looking at baby clothes online, discussing strollers and cribs. Grant would stop by after work to check on Sarah. I was invisible in my own home. At 26 weeks pregnant, Sarah was showing significantly. She had that pregnancy glow everyone talks about. She looked healthy and happy. Just not with me. One evening, I came home to find Diana, Grant, and Sarah having dinner together in our dining room. They had takeout from Sarah's favorite Thai restaurant. Nobody had thought to text me. Nobody had saved me a plate. I walked through to the kitchen to make myself something to eat. I heard Diana say, "He is always so quiet now. Is everything okay between you two?" Sarah's response was hushed, but I heard it. "He is still upset about the surrogacy, but he will come around eventually. He has to." I did not come around. I came to a conclusion. 2 weeks before Sarah's due date, I moved out. I did it on a Saturday, while she was at a prenatal appointment with Diana and Grant. I took the rest of my belongings, the furniture I had brought into the marriage, and some kitchen items. I left the house looking emptier but functional. I left a note on the kitchen counter. "I am done, Sarah. The divorce papers will be served next week. Do not contact me unless it is through a lawyer." When she came home and found the note, she called me 17 times. I did not answer. She texted me begging me to come home to talk to reconsider. I turned my phone off. Diana called me from Sarah's phone. I answered because I thought it might be an emergency. "How could you do this to her?" Diana screamed. "She is 8 months pregnant, and you abandoned her." I did not abandon her. She abandoned our marriage when she chose this surrogacy over my objections. She is helping me. She is being a good sister. And a terrible wife. Goodbye, Diana. I hung up and blocked Sarah's number. I blocked Diana and Grant too. I blocked her parents. I needed silence. I needed space to breathe without someone telling me I was wrong for protecting myself. Sarah went into labor 2 weeks later. I know because my attorney called to inform me. Diana sent an email through Richard's office with a photo attachment. I deleted it without opening it. I did not want to see the baby. I did not want to know her name. She was not mine. She never would be. For 3 days, my phone stayed off. When I finally turned it back on, there were dozens of messages. Most were from numbers I did not recognize. Family members. Friends of Sarah's, all of them condemning me for leaving. One message stood out. It was from Sarah's mother. "That baby almost died during delivery. Sarah hemorrhaged. She needed a blood transfusion. And you were not there. What kind of man are you?" I read it 3 times. Part of me felt guilty. Part of me wanted to call and make sure Sarah was okay. But the larger part of me, the part that had been ignored and dismissed for months, reminded me that I had begged her not to do this. I had warned her of the risks. She had chosen to take them anyway. I texted Richard and asked him to confirm Sarah was stable. He called the hospital and reported back that she was recovering well. The baby was healthy. Diana and Grant were overjoyed. Everything had worked out for everyone except me. 2 weeks after the birth, Sarah reached out through Richard. She wanted to see me. She said it was important. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop near my new apartment. She looked different, thinner, exhausted. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She had dark circles under her eyes. When she saw me, she started crying before she even sat down. "Leopold, please. We need to talk." I remained standing until she sat. Then I took the chair across from her. "You have 30 minutes. I made a mistake. A terrible, awful mistake." "Which part, becoming a surrogate, or thinking our marriage would survive it?" "All of it. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I could help Diana and still keep us intact. I was wrong. You were warned, Sarah, multiple times, by me. I know. I should have listened. But I was so focused on helping my sister that I did not see what I was losing." She wiped her eyes. "Giving birth to that baby was the hardest thing I have ever done. Not physically, emotionally. When they put her in my arms, all I could think was that I carried her for 9 months, and she is not mine. I have to give her to Diana and walk away. And the person I want to turn to for comfort, the person I need most, is you. But you are not there because I pushed you away." I felt a flicker of sympathy, but pushed it down. "You made your choice. I want to fix this. I want us to try again. Go to counseling, whatever it takes." I shook my head. "There is nothing to fix, Sarah. You broke something that cannot be repaired. You chose your sister over your husband. You disregarded my feelings, my concerns, my needs. You made me feel worthless in my own marriage. I never meant to make you feel that way. But you did. And when I told you how I felt, you did it anyway. That is not love, Sarah. That is selfishness. Please, I am begging you. Give me another chance." I looked at this woman who used to be my whole world and felt only sadness. "I gave you chances. I begged you not to do this. I warned you what would happen. You did it anyway. Now you have to live with the consequences just like I do. So that is it. You are just done. I was done the day you told me your body and your choice mattered more than our marriage. I just did not leave right away because I kept hoping you would realize what you were doing. You never did." She reached across the table and grabbed my hand. "I realize it now. I see what I lost. Please, Leopold. I love you." I gently pulled my hand away. "I loved you too, Sarah. Past tense. What we had is gone. You sacrificed it for a baby that is not even yours. And I cannot forgive that. What am I supposed to do now? Live your life. Be Aunt Sarah. Help Diana raise her daughter. Just do it without me." I stood up to leave. She grabbed my arm. "I cannot do this alone." "You are not alone. You have Diana. You have Grant. You have your parents. You chose them over me. Now you get to live with that choice." I walked out of that coffee shop and did not look back. I heard her crying, but I kept walking. I had spent months being the one who hurt while she got what she wanted. It was her turn now. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. Sarah did not contest it. Her lawyer tried to negotiate for alimony, but given the circumstances and the fact that we had been married less than 5 years, Richard got it dismissed. We split our assets down the middle. She kept the house. I kept my sanity. The first few months after moving out were brutal. I had moments where I questioned everything. Should I have been more understanding? Was I too rigid? But then, I would remember the feeling of standing in my own living room invisible, while my wife celebrated someone else's pregnancy. I would remember being told my opinion did not matter, and I knew I had made the right choice. I threw myself into work. I took on extra projects. I volunteered to lead a new team initiative. Staying busy kept me from thinking too much. My coworkers noticed I was different, but did not ask questions. I appreciated that. On weekends, I started hiking again. Not the easy trails Sarah and I used to do together, but challenging climbs that required focus and stamina. I would push myself until my legs ached and my lungs burned, and in those moments of physical exhaustion, I found mental clarity. I joined a rock climbing gym and met people who knew nothing about my past. To them, I was just Leopold, the guy who showed up 3 times a week to climb. We would grab beers after sessions and talk about routes and gear. Simple conversations that did not require me to explain or defend myself. One of the guys, Marcus, eventually asked if I was going through something. I must have looked worse than I thought. I gave him the abbreviated version. He listened and then said, "Man, you did what you had to do. People do not understand that sometimes love is not enough. You need respect too." That sentence stuck with me. Love is not enough. You need respect too. Sarah had loved me, I believed that. But she had not respected me. And without respect, love becomes meaningless. I started seeing a therapist. Dr. Helen Brennan specialized in relationship trauma. She helped me process everything without judgment. She helped me understand that setting boundaries is not selfish. That protecting yourself is not cruel. That I had every right to leave a marriage where my voice did not matter. "You gave her multiple chances to choose you," Dr. Brennan said during one session. "She chose herself every time. You cannot build a partnership with someone who only sees their own needs." I carried those words with me. They became a mantra on difficult days when guilt tried to creep in. 6 months after the divorce, I heard through mutual friends that Sarah was struggling. She had postpartum depression. The experience of giving birth and handing over the baby had affected her more than she anticipated. Diana and Grant were grateful, but busy with their new daughter. Sarah felt used and discarded. I did not reach out to her. That chapter of my life was closed. Whatever she was going through, she had chosen that path. I had tried to stop her. She had called me selfish for it. Now she understood what I had been trying to protect her from all along. As time passed, the pain lessened. I started dating casually. Nothing serious, just coffee dates and dinners. I was not ready for anything deep. But it felt good to meet people who did not know my story, who saw me as just Leopold, not the guy whose wife chose surrogacy over marriage. 1 year after moving out, I sat on the balcony of my apartment watching the sunset over the city. I thought about where I had been and where I was going. The anger was gone. The bitterness had faded. What remained was a quiet acceptance. I had learned that you cannot make someone value you. You cannot force someone to prioritize your relationship. All you can do is set your boundaries and walk away when they are crossed. It is not easy. It hurts like hell. But staying hurts worse. Sarah had asked me what kind of man leaves his pregnant wife. I finally had an answer. The kind of man who knows his worth. The kind of man who refuses to be invisible in his own life. The kind of man who understands that sacrifice should be mutual, not one-sided. I did not know what my future held. Maybe I would meet someone who understood partnership. Maybe I would stay single and focus on building a life I was proud of. Either way, I was choosing myself. And for the first time in a long time, that felt right. Sometimes people ask if I regret leaving. I tell them no. I regret that it came to that point. I regret that Sarah made a choice that destroyed us. But I do not regret protecting myself. I do not regret walking away from a marriage where I did not matter. My body, my choice. Sarah was right about that. But my life, my choice too. And I chose to leave, rather than disappear entirely. As I watched the sun dip below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, I felt something I had not felt in over a year. Peace. Not happiness. Not yet. but peace. And that was enough for now. I thought about the man I had been a year ago, desperate to save a marriage that was already gone, begging to be heard by someone who had stopped listening. That man was gone. In his place was someone stronger, someone who knew that love without respect is just obligation. Someone who understood that you cannot set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. I did not know if Sarah ever understood what she had lost. Part of me hoped she did not out of spite, but because that understanding might save her from making the same mistake again. But that was not my concern anymore. She was not my concern anymore. I was my concern. My healing, my future, my choices. And for the first time since this nightmare began, those choices were entirely mine. So what did I learn from all of this? I learned that boundaries are not walls meant to keep people out. They are standards meant to protect what matters most. I learned that compromise requires two people, not one person giving in while the other takes. I learned that my choice works both ways. Sarah chose to use her body for surrogacy. I chose to use my feet to walk away. I learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is leave. Even when it hurts. Even when people judge you. Even when the person you are leaving is begging you to stay. Because at the end of the day, you have to live with your choices. And I would rather live alone with my self-respect than together with someone who never valued my voice. That is my truth. That is my story. And I am finally at peace with how it ended. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever been in a relationship where your boundaries were not respected? Have you had to make the difficult choice between staying and protecting yourself? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more real stories about life relationships and finding the courage to choose yourself. Share this with someone who needs to hear that it is okay to walk away when you are not valued. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps someone out there who is struggling with a similar situation. Remember, you deserve to be heard. You deserve to matter. And you deserve a partner who values you as much as you value them. Take care of yourselves.